comment section deserves a higher rating than the movie itself.
This was my father's kingdom.
Disney started with Snow
A place
White,
of fairness.
and apparently is
But the
ending
queen.
Snow White.
For the first time in my
Changed
life,
everything.
I'm glad there's no theater near me.
Take him
If I
away!
saw this
Your
movie
Majesty.
on a plane,
What did you
I would
say?
still walk out.
The people need some kindness.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been making waves online and at the box office, Disney's recent remake of Snow White. This isn't the classic tale we all know and love from 1937. It's a complete reimagining that tried to update the story for modern audiences. But instead of becoming the next big hit, the film has faced harsh criticism, poor ratings, and some very concerning box office numbers. So, let's break down what happened, why people are so upset, and what it might mean for Disney moving forward. First off, let's talk about the changes. The original Snow White is a beloved fairy tale where the princess waits for a prince to rescue her and ultimately find true love. In Disney's new version, that narrative is turned on its head. Instead of focusing on romance, Snow White is portrayed as an independent, determined leader who is driven by the words of her late father. In this version, her goal isn't to be rescued or to fall in love. It's all about finding her own strength and leadership qualities. The filmmakers wanted to give us a Snow White who stands on her own 2 feet without relying on a prince to save her. This shift was clearly an attempt by Disney to tap into modern conversations about empowerment and to move away from the traditional damsel in distress trope. However, while some appreciated the effort to modernize the character, many fans felt that the changes missed the mark. They argue that the charm of the original story was lost in the process. Instead of celebrating the classic tale, the movie felt like a rehash of a beloved story that everyone already knows and loves. The term woke has been thrown around a lot lately, and unfortunately for Disney, it's become a lightning rod. In this discussion, for many people, the remake seems like an overcorrection, a hyper-woke effort that ends up doing more harm than good. The film tries to embrace progressive themes, but instead of creating a thoughtful, nuanced story, it appears to come off as forced and out of touch with what audiences want from a fairy tale. Critics and fans alike have argued that by trying too hard to update the story, Disney has lost the essence of what made the original so magical. The emphasis on political correctness and modern ideals, rather than the timeless charm of Snow White's journey, has not resonated with a lot of longtime Disney fans. It's like the film forgot that sometimes a fairy tale is best kept simple, with clear heroes, clear villains, and that unmistakable spark of wonder that defines a classic. Now, let's talk numbers. The movie had a massive budget, around $240 million, which is nothing to sneeze at. With that kind of investment, Disney was expecting big returns. Unfortunately, the film only brought in about $48 million during its opening weekend. That's a huge gap between what was spent and what was earned, and it clearly signals that something went seriously wrong. When you have a blockbuster budget like this, there's a lot riding on the film's performance. The poor box office numbers suggest that not only did audiences not connect with the film, but they also weren't even excited enough to come out to the theaters in droves. A big part of this might be due to the negative buzz surrounding the movie even before it was released. It's one thing for a film to perform poorly financially, but when you combine that with dismal ratings, it becomes even more clear that the movie is struggling on multiple fronts. On IMDb, the film has a score of just 2.4 out of 10. That's incredibly low. On Rotten Tomatoes, it holds a rating of 43%, and even The Guardian gave it a 1-star review. These ratings are not just numbers. They reflect the collective disappointment of both critics and everyday moviegoers. Imagine being a fan of the original Snow White, excited to see a new take on a classic, only to be met with a film that seems to have missed its mark entirely. That's exactly how many felt. The drastic changes in the storyline, the removal of the familiar romantic subplot, and the overall tone of the film led to a lot of negative reactions. People expected something different, and what they got didn't align with the magic and nostalgia they were hoping for. A significant part of the controversy has also been directed at the film's lead actress, Rachel Zegler. Her portrayal of Snow White was meant to be the heart of this new narrative. A strong, independent character who doesn't need a man to define her. However, things took a turn when her public comments began to stir up even more controversy. Zegler made some statements that were seen as divisive, including remarks about Trump supporters, which only added fuel to the fire. For many, these comments were a deal-breaker. In a movie that was already struggling due to its creative direction, the backlash against the lead actress made the situation even worse. It seemed that instead of uniting audiences, her comments only further alienated a significant portion of potential viewers. In some ways, it became less about the film and more about the personality behind it, which is a shame because it shifted the focus away from the story itself. Another interesting aspect of the film's rollout was its unusual marketing strategy. Instead of a grand, widely publicized premiere, Disney opted for a very low-key launch. The movie's premiere was held at a remote castle in Spain, a location that was supposedly connected to the inspiration behind the original 1937 animated classic. However, only about 100 people were invited to this event. This low-key premiere was a stark contrast to what we normally expect from a Disney blockbuster. Instead of generating buzz and excitement, the premiere felt like an afterthought. It's as if Disney was trying to avoid a major public relations disaster by keeping the event as small and contained as possible. For many, this move signaled that even the studio wasn't confident about the film's potential to succeed. The film didn't just face backlash from audiences, even industry insiders had a lot to say. Some commentators pointed out that remaking a classic like Snow White is a risky move in itself. After all, you're dealing with a story that has been beloved for nearly a century. Changing its core elements means you're also changing what people love about it. One common criticism was that the filmmakers were trying too hard to fit a modern political narrative into a story that was never meant to be political. Every change made to the story, from the removal of the romantic subplot to the addition of modern empowerment themes, was seen by many as a misstep. Critics argued that these changes didn't add anything meaningful to the story, and in many cases detracted from its timeless appeal. This isn't the first time Disney has taken a risk with a classic and had it backfire. The studio has a long history of remaking its older films, and while some remakes have been successful, others have clearly missed the mark. This latest attempt is particularly damaging because it not only alienates longtime fans, but it also risks tarnishing Disney's reputation with newer audiences who might be turned off by what they perceive as forced political messaging. For Disney, a brand that has built its legacy on storytelling and the magic of fairy tales, this kind of backlash can be particularly harmful. The studio is now faced with the challenge of rebuilding trust and proving that they can still deliver the enchanting stories that people have come to expect from them. The current situation is a stark reminder that even the biggest and most established companies can stumble when they stray too far from what made them successful in the first place. Looking ahead, the failure of this remake could have a significant impact on how Disney approaches future projects. There's a lot of pressure on big studios to modernize their classic films and make them relevant for today's audiences. However, this must be done carefully. There's a fine line between updating a story and completely losing what made it special. The backlash from fans and critics alike shows that many people still hold a deep emotional connection to the original versions of these classic films. Any attempt to remake them must balance innovation with respect for the source material. For Disney, this could mean that future projects will either need to find a better way to integrate modern themes without alienating longtime fans, or risk repeating the same mistakes over and over again.